Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, where we discuss business fundamentals in the agricultural fraternity of Zimbabwe as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030, where we are talking about becoming an upper middle class economy. And you would find that most of our Zimbabwean farmers in general, well over 67% of our farming community in Zimbabwe resides in rural areas, and they play a pivotal role when it comes to the development of our economy as a country. Now, you would see that in regards to sweet potato production, the majority of Zimbabwean farmers lack access to clean material, and by clean material, I'm referring to sweet potato vines, those that have a yield potential, higher yield potential, and maybe those that are still good when it comes to performing and to producing good sweet potatoes. Now, these processes are initiated from the laboratory. We are saying that in Zimbabwe, we have researchers. If you look at the value chain, it emanates from research, it goes on to production, where most of our Zimbabwean farmers are found, processing, marketing, then consumption. Now, our Zimbabwean farmers are the producers, but they need to be equipped with the knowledge and the necessary inputs so that they remain viable in the business. To discuss this and more in terms of sweet potato production, I have taken the liberty of inviting Jeto Mugabe. He is a molecular biologist working with Kutsaga. Jeto, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Adzanai.
Yes, this episode is anchored on sweet potato production. As I highlighted earlier, our Zimbabwean farmers end up exchanging the sweet potato vines within their farming communities. Yabva pamaichimuti gore rino taakuonawo futi yaana mukoma tendai vari kungoraunda the same sweet potato vines. As we get into our discussion, what is plant tissue culture?
I think the easiest one is to say it is just the growing of plants in test tubes. But basically, it's not only just limited to plants organs, but you also have to move on to even the cells themselves. From cells to organs, even plant parts. That's what we call plant tissue culture, basically.
Okay, that was very detailed. I'd like to believe our Zimbabwean farmers are taking notes, because in as much as these processes are done in the laboratory, they are being done with you in mind, so that you smile all the way to the bank. That's why we have researchers in this industry. Moving right along, Jetwell, what is the importance of getting clean planting material? And by clean planting material, I'm talking of the sweet potato vines.
You know what happens, like what you've also alluded in your introduction, is that sweet potatoes, they struggle so much with viral diseases. Mm-hmm. You know what happens is that if you continuously use the same planting material over and over, year in, year out, your planting material, it starts to degenerate. It starts to produce less yields. So basically, you cannot do anything that you can do with viruses except getting clean planting material.
Okay.
Yes, because basically it's just a case whereby someone who is sick and someone who is healthy, do they perform the same? So that's the concept that we also obviously use when we are producing our sweet potatoes.
Okay. J12, you would find that these viruses are a menace when it comes to sweet potato production. And that is why maybe some of our Zimbabwean farmers have a love-hate relationship with agriculture. Sweet potatoes are but we have you guys as experts guiding our Zimbabwean farmers into being profitable in their ventures. Can you maybe outline those viruses? What are those in sweet potato production? And also, how can a farmer say, virus? Sweet potato virus.
Okay, the name of the viruses, we have mainly two viruses. Mm-hmm. These are the major viruses. We have what is known as the sweet potato feather motor virus. This is the most dangerous virus that you can come across in sweet potato. And also you have what is called the sweet potato chlorotic virus. Mm-hmm. So there are two kinds of viruses. And usually when an interaction of these two viruses happen in one plant, that is when you start seeing your yields start to decrease. You might have the sweet potato feather motor virus, but usually you might lose yields of just about 50%. But when they interact, you can even lose up to 90%.
Okay.
Yes, and the first also indicator that you can also look that you have now viruses in your crop, first is the yield reduction. Although there are some symptoms that you can also have a look at, like the puckering of the leaf. The leaves can also be the leaf becomes it loses its shape.
Oh, okay.
And also chlorosis, whereby they also lose the green pigment, and also the stunted growth. These are the major three. Although physiologically we can also look into some, but basically if the farmer wants to look at those kind of three distinctive symptoms, which is the chlorosis of the farm, of the leaves, the puckering of the leaf, and also standard growth.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if I heard you correctly, Jetwell, you are saying that the solution or the remedy to this is just getting clean planting material, getting clean sweet potato vines.
Yes, that's basically the solution, because you cannot do anything with viruses. There is no chemical that you can treat viruses except buying new material that is clean and free from viruses.
Okay. Now, Jetwell, can we talk about the meristem tip culture? What does it do in sweet potato seedlings production? Taking me back to biology, A-level biology.
Yes, meristem tip culture, that is the process that is used when you want to eliminate viruses. So what we do is that we go to a plant, an infected plant that is, in our case, sweet potato. So that plant, we go through the microscope, what you're seeing from our behind, using under sterile conditions. When you say sterile conditions, we're saying in environment that is free from bacteria and fungi. Because in the process, we are also eliminating viruses. When we are eliminating viruses, we also eliminate bacteria and fungi at the same time. And then it's just a group of cells that are differentiated. So we dissect those cells. They are really tiny, and you have to use the microscope for you to see those cells. And then you place them in a growing test tube. Like what I have said, that we grow our plants in test tubes. We then place them in a test tube, and then they divide into your ball of cells, which you call a callus. Don't worry about the terms. But that callus will then eventually develop into a whole plant shoot, which we then take for virus indexing, which is now testing if we've succeeded with eliminating our viruses before we can now go into propagation.
Okay, Jetwell, just a snippet. What is taking place in this laboratory? Earlier on when we went in, I could see the way ladies you refer to as the processors. Generally, in a snippet, what is happening in here?
This is where we do our meristem tip culture. And we have ladies that spend most of their time looking at those meristems, and they use what are called the stereo microscopes, which are seen from behind here. And we have also a laminar flow cabinet right behind you. What it does is that it sucks air that is not sterile, and then it goes through the filters, and then it is blown horizontal into the faces of the ladies that will be sitting right here, so that air is also free from bacteria. So the environment itself is also free from bugs, and also them themselves, they're also supposed to be clean. The stereo microscopes are also supposed to be clean. The media that we also use is supposed to be clean. Yes. So everything has to be sterile.
You actually went on to an extent of giving me a hairnet, covering my beautiful hairstyle.
Yes,
now,
because we don't want to see any bugs flying around.
Okay, Jetwell, we are about to run. Can you link all these processes to the Zimbabwean farmer? Vakagara kumba vari kuti mbeu iyi iriko kumbari. Chazoshamisa pamune muri kutaura yemulebhi ichiita ane makore tichizviita zvinizvi. Can you link all these processes? How do they benefit the farmer?
I've also tried to mention it when I was also going along in mentioning about meristem tip culture. The main and the biggest advantage of getting this planting material is that you get clean material which performs much better than old material. So you are guaranteed to get the best yields. And at times when you have viruses and manifestation of viruses, you can lose your yields up to 90%. And imagine if you are able to regain that 90% soon after we clean your material. It means you are also going to save on your land, you're also going to save on your inputs, and also getting high yields at the same time.
Thank you so much, Jetwell. That was very detailed. On that note, viewers, we have come to the end of this first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in Support of Vision 2030, where we discuss business fundamentals and production economics in the agricultural fraternity here in Zimbabwe. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wazanai Manyore, on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wazanai. Leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. On our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wazanai. We are now available on Twitter, where most of these pertinent discussions take place. It's at Agribusiness 110. Now today we are looking at sweet potato production, the nitty-gritties that take place in the laboratories to ensure that the sweet potato vines that are being produced are clean. They are being referred to clean material by the experts here. Now earlier on, before to the break, we're looking at meristem tip culture in a separate lab. At this point in time, we have taken the liberty of inviting Tendai Gukuta. She is working here at Kutaga as well, and she's going to be taking us through the processes in the lab that she is in. Tendai, thank you for joining us today.
All right, thank you for having me today.
Yes, as we introduce this episode, I should say for starters, it is empowering to see women in your position, such as this one. You are undertaking huge tasks that enhance production to our local farmers here in Zimbabwe. I should congratulate you from that. Very commendable.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Can we talk about the processes in here? Can you introduce this lab that we are in and the activities maybe that take place in it?
Okay. So this is the plant tissue culture commercial facility where we do a lot of micropropagation efforts. So in sweet potato production, we get our mother plants from viral indexed meristem tip culture material, and that material we bring it here in the commercial facility for micropropagation, or in other words, we call it multiplication. And the process is whereby we start bulking up the material to get increased numbers so that we can meet client demands.
Okay, thank you so much, Tendai. That was very detailed. You do know your stuff. Maybe for our audience there at home, it's farmers mainly that tune into this program, and a bit of maybe some A-level students, some graduates who are anticipating or looking forward to get into agriculture. Can you define maybe what is micropropagation?
Okay, so the process of micropropagation is whereby, like I mentioned, we begin to bulk up the material that comes from meristem tip culture. And by bulking up the material, we are doing rapid multiplication or clonal propagation, and we get genetically identical material from what we had from the mother plants. So the process will be happening under the laminar floors, and we have specialized personnel who carry out this process. And also it happens in chemically defined media with nutrients, vitamins, all the carbon source and different components added to that, and the plant grows in the lab before we take it to the greenhouse.
Okay, thank you so much, Tendai. You will find that here in these laboratories, they are very clean. If you look with your eye, our naked eye, they look very clean. I should say that, well done for that. But let's take it a step further and talk about sterility. There is cleanliness that is only observed with the eye, but then we are talking about issues surrounding sterility of the laboratory. How do you ensure that it is always in this pristine state?
Thank you for that question. So our lab has different steps of maintaining sterility, and the first one is personnel. When everyone gets in the lab, we make sure they go through the showers, so everything is within the lab. And once they take their showers, they wear their different uniforms, and they then have different wash points. They have 2 different wash points before they get into the laminars. And we also make sure that they do not leave the facility before the day ends, and everything is housed within the lab. And then we move on to the media that we plant our different material in. We make sure this is sterile by autoclaving it or sterilizing it under high pressure and high temperatures at 121 degrees Celsius. And we also consider the sterility of the environment. So the facility is also fumigated weekly, and sometimes even between the weeks, we also have some different fumigations with different chemicals to make sure the air is also sterile. And the lab was built in such a way that there is positive pressure, so that even a fly, when it tries to get in from outside, it cannot get inside the lab. And we have filters from outside blowing in air through high efficiency particulate air filters, and everything is then blown out. We also lastly make sure that it's sterile by sterilizing our utensils, be it in the 121 degrees or also on the laminars they'll be working on. We have bead sterilizers at 300 degrees Celsius.
Thank you so much, Tendai. Now can you talk about maybe the culturing speeds or the carrying capacity of the lab?
Okay, so our lab facility has a capacity of 1 million plantlets at one go. So our growth room can house 1 million sweet potato plantlets at one go. So we can satisfy the Zimbabwe market for sweet potatoes. And also, we have different processors that are working on the laminars, and we have a capacity of 12. So each week we can produce up to 75,000 sweet potato seedlings.
Okay, thank you so much, Tendai. And I like that you alluded to the fact of satisfying the Zimbabwean market. We have most of our Zimbabwean farmers not having access to these, clean materials that were being talked about earlier on. Now, as we round off this segment, this micropropagation, Tendai, how do you think it's going to enhance productivity to the farmer? Because at the end of the day, these efforts, they are being put in place to ensure that the Zimbabwean farmer is well equipped when it comes to their inputs. So how do you think whatever it is that you are doing with your colleagues in the laboratory is going eventually to add on to the farmer's efforts, the one who's producing sweet potatoes?
Okay, so to the farmer, we are able to produce high-yielding material because the material we bulk up is coming up from meristem tip culture. So it has high vigor, and we have the capacity to rapidly multiply because of the process of micropropagation as compared to conventional methods in the greenhouse or in open fields. And also we get to multiply uniform plantlets. So the material we multiply is identical to the first mother plant, and you are guaranteed that you can also get uniform yields for the farmer. And lastly, we also are able to satisfy the Zimbabwean market for whatever needs they have in sweet potato production.
Thank you so much, Tendai. That was very detailed. I can tell you do enjoy your job.
I do.
Anyone would, given that you do have a sterile environment with a clean air, and it is amazing as a lady, like I've said earlier on, you are undertaking this task. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you for coming through. We really appreciate it.
There you hear it, viewers. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in Support of Vision 2030. Today, we're looking at sweet potato production, and we are here in the third and final segment, where we have taken just maybe a sample, just a few flow trays to showcase the nature of the seedlings that they will be producing. Now, earlier on, before we went to the break, we've had already two segments. The first one was on meristem tip culture, and this second one, where I was joined by Tendai, we had the micropropagation section, where she was enlightening us of the activities in that laboratory. At this point in time, I'm once again joined by Jeto Mugabe. He is going to be taking us through on how they managed to produce this healthy kind, this healthy variety of sweet potatoes. Jeto, welcome back.
Thank you, Adzanai.
As we get into our discussion, I would like you to introduce maybe this section. I understand that we have just taken a sample, but can you maybe enlighten us on this section now? What is taking place?
From micropropagation, like what Tendai took you through, we then take our plants, because our plants in the laboratory, they are being provided with everything. They have the light, they have the temperature, and even the nutrients. Everything is provided at optimum, so that everything is it's not affected by environmental factors. So what we do here, we want to win these plants from an environment where they are being fed with everything, and then from an environment that is so that they can survive outside. So we harden them first, and then from hardening, we then plant them in mother beds. Those mother beds are the ones that we then take, and then we plant into float trays for production and also for distribution to farmers.
Okay, now Jeto, you would find that in tobacco we also do have a hardening process. Just seeing these float trays, it took me back to tobacco seed bed, where we're having it around May and so forth. Now, can you maybe enlighten our audience there at home in terms of the hardening process of these sweet potato seedlings?
The hardening process that we do here is totally different from what happens in tobacco. What we do here is that our plants are being provided with everything, like what I've also highlighted before, and they are grown under high humidity. So the first thing that we have to do is to reduce humidity, but we have to do it gradually. If we just do it randomly or abruptly, the plants will die. So we have to reduce the humidity from 100%, we move to 75%, 50%, 25%, then to 0%. That's the hardening process that we go through.
Okay. From your laboratories that were very clean and sterile, can you maybe enlighten the audience there at home? How do you guarantee that these seedlings are disease-free or pest-free?
The first thing is that we grow them under a greenhouse. We don't have to put them outside. It has to be under a greenhouse that is also protected with insect-proof material. That's the first part. And then the second thing, we also sample for virus indexing. We also do virus indexing soon after meristem tip culture, and then once it's now in the field, we also do virus indexing, so that when we sell, we have a certificate that certifies ourselves that this material is virus-free.
Okay. Now, Jetro, can you maybe enlighten our audience once again in terms of the varieties that are available in sweet potato production that you are producing?
The top two that we have what is known as German 2, red skin and white flesh, and we also have Chingova, which is also white skin, white flesh. We have other varieties that are also being requested by farmers, like Delvia, which is also orange-fleshed. We also have Alicia, which is also orange-fleshed. And we also have Beauregard, the original Beauregard. Yes.
Now, as we round off this segment, J12, how can farmers take advantage of these technologies that are already in existence, and even the human capital resources? You guys are experts. You do understand how these operations take place. In other words, makachi master chigiv chachu. So how can farmers take advantage? We might have a farmer in Mutoko who has his vines, but my vines are aneta.
The best way is to approach us. He or she can bring her material. It goes through the meristem tip culture, we index it, and then it goes through micropropagation. That can also be provided as a service on our part, so that you also benefit from all this technology. You also benefit in the yield that also comes with it.
Okay. We've come to the end of this segment. Maybe a brief touch on authenticity of this. Earlier on, we're talking of farmers approaching guys or approaching organizations, reputable organizations, that they can offer them certified seed or clean material. When it comes to the authenticity, what are your sentiments as we round off?
I would say when you talk of authenticity, this is the authenticity. When we say clean material, because in sweet potato, you cannot go beyond anything that has been planted more than 4 times. So if you want authenticity, you get material, clean material from this side, which has never been planted outside. Then you will go outside and then you can maintain it yourself. From virus-free, meristem tip culture, multiplication, and then we'll also give you material that has never produced tubers. What else do you want?
Okay. That was very detailed, Jero. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much, Wadzanai.
There you heard it, viewers. We're talking of sweet potato production. From the early stages, we are talking of research. We have researchers in this country. Our government has invested in research when it comes to agricultural enterprises here in Zimbabwe. From me, your host Wadzanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's W Manyore. And the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.